And my name is Chandrakant. Olympic has ended yesterday in a spectacular finale, and many athletes competed with each other, and they were really the best among the best, selected from various countries, and they competed for the ultimate title. And many have actually achieved their dreams, and many are learning new lessons and will come again if possible after 4 years and compete again. I think for all of us there is a lesson for us to understand in all of this, and to discuss this matter what we can learn from Olympic athletes. I will be joined by a very special guest today in the studio from UK. So I will join you back along with my guest in a moment after a few messages. Welcome back, friends, and I'm very honored and pleased to have Mr. Naval Gaunt to be part of our discussion today. And he is also the chairman of MindFit Ltd, and very pleased and honored to have him for this very important discussion. Welcome to the show, Naval.
Good morning, CK. Good morning, everybody. Yes, the Olympics. All I can say is, wow, 2 weeks of full-on. Every athlete that's known around the world, every team that's known around the world, all went to Tokyo a year late. Now we have to remember it's a year late. It was 2020 when these Olympics should have been going on. And interestingly enough, they only knew 6 weeks before they were supposed to be going to Tokyo that it was going to be delayed for a year. So we've immediately learned one thing about resilience, the letdown. And if people know anything about the Olympics and athletes in particular, is that they really do spend an awful lot of time managing their diaries, their energies, right the way through to peak at that Olympic week, 2 weeks. And it happens every 4 years, apart from when COVID happens, and it didn't happen last year. So can you just imagine? One thing we can learn is we can imagine, or can we imagine, what all these athletes went through when they'd done all their preparation, they were ready to peak their performance at that particular time, and then they said, really sorry about this, but we can't do anything but delay for a year. What do you think of that, CK?
Well, Naval, I think it's a very important point that you've raised. And in fact, it's not only that. I think the entire world was having affected by the COVID pandemic. And many sports people were also under quarantine because of, they are going to the stadium and practicing, and then got infected with coronavirus. And in fact, I know for sure that one of Indian athlete was diagnosed positive just one day before she was supposed to take the flight. And incidentally, she has won one of the medal. I think she has won the silver medal. So this has happened. And it's very important. I think this is something that we all wait for 4 years, for the entire world to compete and celebrate these sports. And that is why Tokyo Olympic was very, very important event for the entire world. And one more thing I'd like to tell the viewers is that, we are right now live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can engage with us live by sending messages directly, and your messages will come directly on our screen. So Naval, I think this is what I feel. It was very, very critical. This Olympic was very critical for the entire world and to come together and compete.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right, CK. And all I was making a point was you build yourself up over a 4-year period, and you get all your diet right, you get your reactions right, you compete in the right races, you miss home life, you travel all over the world to get to the right competitions so that you're at your peak of fitness, and then someone says, I'm sorry, It's just a delay. It's only a year, go back. Well, for some of these athletes, they didn't actually make it to that year because they were a little bit older, let's say. And in fact, one of the interesting ones, Jason Kenny, who won the most Olympic medals that any British person has ever won, and he crowned it off with a gold in a race where he wasn't expected to win. And he basically said, "I'm not the fastest, but I'm going to give it a go." And it was an interesting race because it was over a series of events that they had to do, and you had to pass one event to get to the next, and then into the final. And then in the final, he just literally took the world by storm. In fact, he took all the commentators by surprise. And he went for it. He's a cyclist, and he went for it. And he went for it 3 laps out. And the commentator said, he's gone already. And you could hear the surprise in people that were really experienced of saying, well, maybe he's going to get caught. And of course he didn't get caught because he just motored away and he beat the rest of the world. And in his interview afterwards, it was absolutely fantastic because he said, I came to this Olympic Games thinking these were my last hours of competing at this level. And as the games went on, clock was going down because he just expected this was the last Olympics. And he said, and here I am sitting with a gold. I never expected a gold. So, maybe Paris, who knows? So it was quite interesting. Was one of the things that you alluded to, CK, emotions. Everybody over the last 18 months has been through a tremendous emotional roller coaster. And as one of the commentators said, literally as the Olympics was closing, in the interviews after everyone, whether they won or they came last, it didn't matter. But in the interviews, what they were hearing all of the time was the emotional effort that was coming out. The fact the games had been delayed, the fact that there were no supporters there, the fact that everyone had either know someone that lost somebody in the last year or lost somebody in the last year. And it made it that much more important for them to win the gold, silver, bronze, or even just partake for somebody else. And it was this humility that was running through all of these athletes. Of course, they were doing it from themselves, but they were hugely appreciative of the amount of support that everyone gave them. Family, friends, investors, the Olympic committees of the relevant countries, and even some people had crowdfunded their way to get to the Olympics. I know 2 or 3 people on the British team that didn't have government type funding, charitable funding from the Olympic Committee in the UK, and they crowdfunded. So that's what it means to some of these people. But let's look at that lesson. Empathy, emotions. We'll stick with the letter E. I think they're going to call this the emotional games. And it will probably go down in history as being called the emotional games. Because I don't know about you, CK, but I've played, when I was a lot younger, I played team sports. And it was always great when you had a crowd. And there was literally the only crowd that was in any of these Olympics were your mates or the competitors or the referees, the adjudicators, the scorers, the markers. There was no public there at these games. I mean, that must have been a really tough thing to do when an athlete is just wanting the crowd to will them on a bit.
Absolutely, Neville. In fact, this time the cheering and all the crowd and the hooting, if it was allowed in Olympics, was missing. And I think you made very vital point. I think one point I'll make from my side, and that is the self-discovery of India. India is a very new nation. We got independence in 1947, and since then we were struggling with various issues within the country. Like poverty and population, etc. But this time in the Olympics, we have evolved from a single sport nation to a multi-sport nation. That's really emotional for most of the Indians, because so far India was known as world champions in cricket. But this time, we have got medals in athletics, we've got medal in boxing, weightlifting. So now there is a lot of different state governments are sponsoring. They are actually opening up all across the country, training facilities and all that. So it's a journey of self-discovery also for a nation like India, which is also growing, and now improving the odds and moving up the ladder from a single sport to a multi-sport nation. But I think the key question that I wanted to ask you today, Naval, is that how we can actually take inspiration from all these athletes. And you mentioned some of these keywords like empathy, resilience, empowerment, just some time back. How we can implement all of these learnings into business, and what is our key learning points for our business so that we can be successful?
Yeah, it's a great question, CK. And there are thousands of things we can take into our business arena, or being an entrepreneur, or even if you're at school, really bring you on to do the best you can. And the way I look at this is, we saw the ceremonies for the gold, silver and bronze. I mean, these are the people at their absolute best in their own chosen sport. But we often forget that to get to the 100-meter final, there was 2 semi-finals and 4 heats behind the. And if you've got 8 runners in each one, so you do the maths, So there's 7. Effectively, there are 7 races that include the final. So there are 56 that start to get right down to the last 8. However, the one that came last, the person that came 50th, was there because they wanted to be there. They wanted to compete. They wanted to put their wits against everybody else. And yeah, there was a lot of people that didn't have any chance at all of winning. The point is that they had the grit, they had the resilience to get there. They wanted to compete on the world stage and go and learn how others do it. And I think this is where we can learn a lot in business. It's that collaborative arena. Put yourself into places where you might find it difficult, but learn from others, watch from others, see how they do it, look at the preparation. I mean, someone said, there's not a lot to running, really. There's a track, which you don't own, and there's your spikes, and your shorts, and your shirt, and that's it. There are no other aids here, there's nothing at all. And so it's you, and it's how good your shoes are, and everyone's got the same opportunity to get the same shoes, and it's your trousers, your shirt. And therefore you really are, person against person, man against man, woman against woman. And so we can really learn a lot about that courage, I suppose, another word, to put yourself in a situation where you're expected to lose. But it doesn't matter about everybody else. You're there for a reason. You've got that reason. And the other thing is, I saw in this games a lot more. I mean, there were lots of team sports anyway, but there were a lot of mixed sports. And in 3 years' time in Paris, because it's a shorter period next time, so these have got to be even more resilient because they've only got 3 years to practice for the next Olympics. But some of the sports are changing. And what we saw is that there's more mixed games going on. So in the modern pentathlon, they're talking about having a team game. In the pentathlon itself, that's going to be changing. They did the 3-day eventing, which is a team game, but it's a mixed team game. So it's where men and women are coming more and more to the stage. And even in the swimming, we saw mixed fours, 2 men and 2 women for the very first time. So I think the games are changing and they're reflecting what's going on in the rest of the world. Men and women are equal, so let's put them against each other and have some fun. And that's where the Olympics is moving. So there's lots of lessons that can be learned here. And another one is a 13-year-old. A young girl in the British team, she got a bronze medal. Amazing. Never expected to get a medal. And 13 years old. And in skateboarding, another new sport that's been brought in. And the delight on her face at the end of it. She does this for fun. But when we talk about fun, it's worth listening to her interviews. Actually, she's called Sky Brown. She's all over. She's already got 1 million followers she's all over YouTube. And just listen to the excitement and the exhilaration in her voice at 13 years old. I mean, imagine in 10 years' time, if she keeps that excitement and exuberance and resilience that she's got already. Imagine what she'd be doing. She'd probably be, running the whole Olympics, frankly. I mean, that's the type of person that we're seeing coming through, which is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So there's CK. I mean, you saw most of the Olympics. What lessons do you think businesses can learn?
Well, I think one observation I have, and I actually wanted to ask you that before I actually answer your question. And the observation that I have personally, I may be wrong also, is that the bronze winners were much more happier than silver and gold.
Well, I say this all the time. If you're on the medal rostrum, what effort's gone into it. A lot of the gold medal winners were expected to get gold, but that doesn't make it any easier. Again, Jason Kenny, he is the number 1 Olympian in the UK. Between him and his wife, they have 12 medals on the shelf at home. I mean, it's not bad for a family, in the Olympics, is it really? But he said the Olympics is a time for him to reflect on what he's already achieved. And he looks back and he thinks, well, it was a lot easier then than it is now, because the one now is really hard. And I think that's the difference, I suppose. It's the question is, are you prepared to put in that effort? I mean, let's not forget that these people know what it is that they have to go through to get to the Olympics. But to win a medal, they're almost superhuman. Their routine, and they don't take time off. I mean, this is where people think, they just put in a few weeks' effort just before the games, go to the odd tournament around the country and around the world, join in the World Games and things like that. No, this is a full-time job for them. This is 24/7. They have to eat the right thing. They have to practice on a regular basis. They have to push themselves a little harder on occasions just to see what their body's doing. I mean, I saw some of the cyclists, and they had electrodes all over them, measuring the sensors that were measuring in their body when they were doing certain things, so that they were getting lots and lots of data and lots of information to improve their way forward. So let's not take this too lightly. This is their life. This is their business. They don't have a sideline that's going on. They probably do now. You know, they can probably sell a lot of Jason Kenny T-shirts or something. But this is their life. This is their business, and I think that's what we can also learn from the athletes. And you may be right. You know, there are lots of smiley faces for that bronze, because the bronze is probably the one that's more up for grabs. You know, there may be 1 or 2 or 3 people that are in for the gold. And if they're not in the gold, then there's no guarantee that they'll get the silver or the bronze, because now there's another part of the field that can actually get up there and do their personal best and get a silver. And we saw that in the men's 1500 meters on Sunday, I think it's Saturday. The British guy that got the silver medal, got bronze medal, was literally about half an inch off the tape for the silver medal. But he did his personal best. And when we talk about personal best, we're talking about, you know, marginal gains. But he knocked 2 seconds off his personal best. Now that's massive, absolutely massive, when these people are pounding it out day in, day out. And he was absolutely delighted. He was the happiest man on the planet at that point, I can assure you. Far happier than the guy that got gold or silver. You could see PK, you know? Those that get the bronze probably are a lot happier. And then the reality is, said, oh, can I go for the silver and the gold? Have I got what it takes to marginally change what I've done to get that silver or get that gold? But a medal's a medal. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. And, you know, lots of people came fourth. And they were obviously disappointed at coming fourth. But there's no disgrace in coming fourth, frankly. The effort that people have put in, and a lot of the commentators and interviewers after delved into what it meant to come fourth. You know, those standings are out there forever. But yes, as I say, there's so much we can learn from these Olympic Games that we could probably go on for the rest of the day.
Well, Neville, I think the top 4 teams are best among the best. I think there's no doubt about it. And I think the personal learning that I got from all these athletes this time, and because I was heavily involved watching on the TV, because Indians were competing across the board this time among many tournaments. That is that these people who are actually competing, they don't have any other life other than these sports. They are so focused, you know. Let's talk about wrestling, you know. They get up in the morning, they do their exercise for 4 hours, they eat the right food, what they have to do, they sleep, again they do, get up in the evening, do the same thing. And day in, day out, for years, they keep doing it. Get up, exercise, eat, sleep, exercise, eat, sleep, with no other thing to do, you know. So I think, same is true for cyclists, same is true for anything else. So I think other than having a resilience, I think the focus and discipline is also very important. And we can, copy that from these athletes in our business.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, most of the athletes have this sleep, eat, train, repeat. Sleep, eat, train, repeat. And that's it. That's their calendar. Not 5 days a week, 7 days a week. You know, family birthdays may miss. Their own birthdays they may miss, because they could be at a tournament in a particular place that they need to be at to test something, to try something out. So, you know, when we hear about young people going into classrooms and they said, oh, not another exam. These athletes have an exam every day, you know, and it doesn't matter where they are, because they're putting them through themselves. This is 24/7. That's one thing. Another thing we can learn from here. This is about focus, absolute focus. And the goal, it could be 4 years away. There will be tournaments in between. You know, there's the European Championships, there's the Commonwealth Games, there's the World Games. So there's lots of big championships that you can try yourself out. But there's nothing more than an athlete wants to do than to compete at the Olympics. So they will forfeit some of these other events to make sure that they're in the right tone, the right frame of mind to be at the Olympics. And I think there's a couple of things that we can also pick up from. Mental health at this Games. It's been absolutely at the forefront. We've seen a big American gymnast pulled out of the team event because she wasn't in the right place. And it went huge. It was massive. And decided that what they would do was forfeit the 200 or the 100 and run the 4x100 relay because they thought, actually, I need to do it for the team. So this is a massive sacrifice that some of these people made. And we will read about this in the papers, you know, across the globe over the next few weeks about the sacrifices that people do make. But they were making personal sacrifices at the Games. And maybe it's been done before, but I'd never heard of it. This time around, we have heard of it. So mental health, absolutely paramount. We saw a number of people that suffered through that mental health. And the reason for that is this is their job. This is 24/7. The pressure's on. The press are constantly looking at you being our gold medal hope. And it's our gold medal hope. Not you as a person, it's our. You're representing our country. You will get a gold medal. Imagine all that pressure. It's really tough being, you know, at that level, and all credit to them. And I hope they keep smiling for a long time.
Absolutely, Neville. I think there are a lot of learnings, and as you explained in our discussion today, I think one thing I'd like to add in the end, that is, I would like to see cricket also being included into Olympics.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. We've got basketball and we've got baseball now. And interesting enough, the Japanese won the baseball, beat the Americans in the final, which I thought was amazing. But cricket, yes, let's have cricket. There are lots of nations that play cricket now, so why not have that on the agenda? And they could do the 100. You know, it's I've been watching that interestingly and avidly over the last 2 or 3 weeks since it started here, and it's exciting. They mix, you don't know who's on what team. They mix it all up, and it's just 100 balls, so you can get through that very quick, and it's all timed, and you know, you can't run out of time here or there. There's penalties. You lose the chance to bowl, and it's really exciting. So yeah, there's lots of ways we can bring cricket in. I'm all for that, CK. Maybe not Paris, because all those disciplines have been decided, but maybe the next one.
Yes, Neville, I think we had a very interesting discussion today. I didn't see any comments from anyone, but in case somebody tries to reach out to us with a specific question, we will actually pass it on to you, or we can take that up in the next episode. So thank you so much, Neville, for coming over and, you know, talking to us about this important thing, which is like taking inspiration from all these young athletes. All the business people must have it today. And that is why I think there is a learning for all of us. So Neville, I'd like to say goodbye today, only to catch you tomorrow on something more interesting.
Cheers, CK. Enjoy, everybody.